Welcome everybody, this is DH Thorne here coming at you live tonight on this beautiful Thursday evening. It's a little bit chilly here where I am in New York. I'm wearing my sweater tonight. My goth sweater, it's all kind of black and weird. But hello everybody, what's going on? Welcome, welcome, welcome. What's up, Jose? What's up, Atropa? I see Atropa says she'll be back in a minute. That's fine. Max is fighting bots. Max, we got to get you on here again sometime, at least to talk about your, I don't know, if you're comfortable talking about your campaign and stuff, but yeah, we'll definitely have to do that. Eddie Romanov is here hanging out with us tonight, and Damian Draco, and we see the numbers are shooting up. That's really cool. Shrieking Violet, the Blue Wrench is here. Sinister Jinx, what is up? What is going on? What is going on? If you are here and if you want to shout out, just put a little hello in the chat. If you don't want me to know you're here, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm sure you'll say hi when you feel like it. All is good. Hopefully everybody can hear me good tonight. I'm going to try to keep my inside voice going tonight, and I hope it's going to be loud enough, because I do find that I shout a lot during these streams, and it's not something I like to do. According to the wife, I sound fine, so that's good. Yeah, sounds good, sounds good. Kelly Meadows, what's up, Kelly? And yes, Max, I definitely agree. Whatever we can do to help Damien Eccles. I didn't want to say anything about, the fact that we sort of are talking to him, especially you. I know you are absolutely trying to do a lot for him, and anything that I and my community can do, anything. I mean, if we can do something on my Discord or do a charity thing, if he's got something like that, let's sort of get that ball rolling. That guy deserves every bit of help that we can possibly give him. What was done to him was not cool. It doesn't even have to have our names on it. Just whatever we can do to help him, I really want to do. So you know what to do. You got my private DMs, so we'll talk. But yeah, we got to help Damien Eccles, and if you can get in there and you can get what you need to do that, if you can get elected and all that, then I'm sure you can do a lot of good. So let's make that happen. Fresh to Death, what is up? Yeru, Kat Vargas, what's up, Kat? Let's see, anybody else who I didn't say hi to? No, I guess that's it. David Morgan, what's up, David? Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a little bit, or did I? Did I see you last time? I don't remember. I have this hang up about names and things like that. Like I start recognizing people after a while, and I've recognized your name for a long time. I've known we chatted, we go back, but I don't remember sometimes. I don't know. Did I do too much freaking acid in the 60s or something? I don't know. Justin Sullins, what's up? How's it going, everybody? Good. Let's see. Eddie's saying, I ran into some Damien Eccles triggers. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Hopefully that doesn't mean that there are people that get triggered by him, because he's cool. Eldoria, what's up? We got to get Eldoria on here at some point. I keep meaning to invite Eldoria on for a chat. She's been watching me for a while, and it would actually be a lot of fun. I think she's more towards the theistic side than I am, but I'm sure her perspective would be valuable. So maybe we'll do that at some point. I've been trying to plan out some guests for the next month or two. El the Alchemist is telling me he'd like to do a stream again. He invited himself. Oh, truthers, Eddie says. El the Alchemist invited himself on again in the near future, and I say that jokingly because we always appreciate having El on. I'm also thinking about getting a couple other people. We were thinking about getting D on again. I don't know if you guys remember Darren. D, he's really cool. And we're also thinking about a few other people. We'll just leave it at that. We're thinking about getting a few other people. I'd like to get Dan Updike back on again too. So that'd be really cool. Yeah. So let me get the ball rolling tonight. Now that we got a decent little group of people here, it looks like most of the early birds are here. Let's start with a few things that are sort of on my mind. And I don't know if I should frame this as if I am correcting the record a little bit. I think that there are people who have followed me for a while that either never followed me close enough to know, or they followed me, but they sort of put me on a pedestal. It's one of the things where I really don't like when people put me on a pedestal. I know I'm a public figure, and I know that means that some of what I do means that I'm going to get attention. People are going to think what they're going to think about me. They're going to want to put me in their box. They're going to want to say that I am representative of something they believe in, or maybe the other way around, you know, that I still consider that a pedestal. Even if you think negative of me, you put me on a pedestal and you think you own me. You know, you think you know what I think, or you think you know what I say. And as of late, I have been going through another evolutionary metamorphosis in my metaphysical both understanding and the way I work with things. I've sort of found that I have been almost doing a Sisyphusian effort to sort of push a boulder up a hill for a few years now, you know, and certain things that I began when I started this channel were never meant to become permanent, but I guess I treated them like they would be. And I think some people found my content because of the interests that I had at the time, and assumed that I was part of their tribe in some way, that I was a theistic Satanist or any form of Satanist at all. I know what this looks like. Just trust me on this. Just hear me out. That I'm some sort of a Satanist, like I'm theistic, or I'm big on LaVeyan Satanism or something. No, I am in none of these boxes. I don't consider myself any of those things. I also don't consider myself atheistic, or anything of that sort. I have never been theistic nor atheistic, satanic nor anti-satanic. I occasionally will identify myself as being Luciferian, because I follow Luciferian principles without even intending to. When I describe myself by something, I'm not saying that I personally follow that thing, or that I am adhering to that thing and that thing is shaping my worldview. When I say it, I'm saying that what I talk about or what I do resonates strongest with those things, so that I don't have to go through a big rigmarole of explaining things. If I say that I'm a Luciferian in that sense, I'm basically saying, if you look at what Luciferianism is, that's at least a shortcut. It's like a ballpark. I'm getting you in the ballpark of what I think. But that doesn't mean that I am a Luciferian personally. In other words, doesn't mean that I am guided by that. If I say that I'm a non-dualist, that means the same thing. If I say I'm a Neoplatonist or a Zen Buddhist or anything like that, I'm none of those things. But when I say that I'm not theistic or atheistic, I mean that I don't mean that in that sort of, aloof sense that I'm nothing, I'm none of these things, I'm my own thing. No, I mean that there is a transcendent position on those things that literally transcends the duality of those two very limited ideas. What's up, Alpha? How's it going, Alpha? Good to see you again. We're hitting the club again at the end of the month. So if you're thinking about showing up there, but that was a bit of a hike for you. So Vince is here. What's up, Vince? And Patchwork. Thank you for the 2-spot, Patchwork. Appreciate it, brother. Good to see you again, man. So I transcend that duality of theistic versus atheistic. Now, everybody's got a little bit of a different understanding of words. There's a point in some of this stuff that it sounds like semantics when we agree or disagree, or when I use certain words. The concept of theism, okay, by the textbook as I understand it, theism is a belief in personal deities that either create and or control reality, okay? They can be purely spiritual, they can be some combination of spirit and body, they can be whatever. They're supernatural beings that exist in a sense that Like if we say Thor is a god that controls the weather, or, you know, Poseidon controls the ocean or lives in the ocean, or, you know, Satan lives in the infernal realms and he punishes people or whatever your view, or he's a primordial god that's actually a good guy, whatever. You believe in the literal, the absolute literal version of these things. Now there's obviously some leeway. It's not a black and white necessarily. There's theistic people that think that deities are real, but they don't exist as living beings with flesh and blood. They're purely spiritual or purely in the collective conscious even. There's people who think that way, but they have a very theistic way of looking at it. Now, then there's an atheistic perspective, which says there is no such thing. All of these beings are just imaginary friends that people take too seriously and they dismiss them out of hand. Or if they don't dismiss them, let's say they do treat them as valid things to play with, they still see them as imaginary friends, right? Like they're made up in your mind, they're allegories, they're metaphors, etc. They're not living things. They don't have any kind of mental anything. They exist solely in your imagination. Now, I think both of these arguments are, they're binary, dualistic, shallow-minded, dogmatic perspectives. Now, if you fall under one of those two, a lot of those words can sound insulting. I admit that it's not intentional. These are just literal words. They just have meanings, okay? To be dogmatic means that you believe in a certain set of things. And very often, dogmatic is a negative word, because to be dogmatic means you have faith and belief in something that may or may not be provable. Usually it's unprovable. And it's usually a limiting worldview, really. When we say dogma, it's never a good thing. If I say, oh, this is a dogmatic person, it's almost never a good thing. Dogmatism is almost always a closed-minded position. Now you can be a dogmatic person who believes in something supernatural and has an open, like you can be dogmatic about having an open mind, ironically enough. Not usually, but technically. So you can be dogmatic in that you believe in like the Christian God and you only believe in that story, or you can be dogmatic in that you're a skeptic and don't believe in anything. You think that everything's bullshit and you don't believe in any of it. So what do I think? Everybody who likes to play the non-duality game, get your alcohol ready. The non-duality drinking game, get it ready. I believe that both experiences are valid. I believe that someone who is theistic and goes into any situation where they will encounter these beings in their own way, I do not doubt for a moment that they have that experience. I don't think they're making it up. I think that sometimes people will exaggerate or that they will maybe misinterpret, but that doesn't mean that it didn't happen, and it doesn't mean that it wasn't a spiritual presence. And I also think that people who are atheistic are also right. I think that in their momentary experience, there's no spirit there for them. But I'm not sitting on the fence, and I'm not saying everybody's view is right. I'm saying your experiences are valid. I'm not saying that those experiences themselves are reality. Part of my current evolutionary shift, my metamorphosis of philosophy, it's always sort of been there, but I'm getting better at describing it. I'm learning better words for it. Is the realization, complete and utter realization. This isn't like a theory of mine. This is something that is exquisitely provable even now. Any one of you, if you put this to the test, given some time and some real sincere effort, can prove what I'm about to tell you. The world that you experience right now, every moment, is, for lack of better words, I'm going to use a couple different words. It is holographic, hallucinatory, dreamlike. The world that you see is a projection. It's not the real world. When you're looking at me right now, it's obvious you're not looking at me. You're looking at a computer screen or your phone. You're not looking at me. And you're not even looking at your phone. That's not a phone that you're seeing. You're seeing light that has impacted the back of your eyes. And the back of your eyes are transmitting a signal through the nerve endings to your brain. And your brain is processing that, and it's doing stuff with it, and it's creating this pulsing flow of electrons and chemicals and photons and everything else. And somehow that is witnessed by consciousness as this phenomenological experience you call the real world. But you don't see the real world. You see what your brain's doing with the real world. But wait, there's more. Because this thing you call a brain is also an idea stuck in your mind. Your brain, this thing that science tells you is there, that you believe is there because you hit your head and you feel it, that too is an illusory thing. Now, does this mean that nothing is real? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what you're experiencing is not reality. I'm not saying that there is not a reality there. I'm saying what you're experiencing is a projection of reality. In other words, this thing that you're experiencing is like a desktop overlay. It's like on your computer. When you look at the desktop of your computer, there's icons that represent things in the actual computer. You'll see a file, and there's no real file on your computer. It's literally a space on your disk or a set of circuits that have a battery hooked up to them so they don't forget stuff. Oh, okay. Super chat. Let me see. Patchwork. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Eddie. Eddie, what the fuck? Dude, take that back. Holy shit. Patchwork, the reason why people don't experience spirit is because they've closed themselves off to spirit. That's what I think anyway. It's a valid perspective, yes. Your mom is an illusory thing. Well, you know, what can I say, Eddie? For $49.99, I will let you say that. That's that's pretty hot. That's pretty fucking hot. All right, so let me go back, okay? I lost my place here. Jose said it well. Your brain hallucinates conscious reality. So your brain, but there's a problem with that statement because your brain itself is a product of that hallucination. So when someone tells me that they have encountered a god or a ghost or a spirit or whatever it is, or when someone says that all those things are just made up in your imagination, both people are right, but for different reasons. The gods, the demons, the daemons, I like the word daemon lately. I've really become attached to it. I don't like saying demon anymore, except it's just kind of habit now. I like the word daemon. The various spirits that we work with, whether they appear real to you or imaginary, are always without any. So in other words, this is a fact. Now we're getting to a fact. This is not something subjective now. This is a fact. They are always representative. They are always representative of an enigma, an archetypal enigma, something that is part of the logos, part of the absolute reality, the noumenal reality, the unseen reality. This is what they're talking about when you hear in magical schools of thought where they say you've got to pierce the veil. This is the veil. This is the veil. All of this is the veil. This is the veil. This is the veil. It's all the veil. Piercing the veil means getting in touch with the noumenal world, the enigmatic world, the world that is unseen, unseeable, unspeakable, and ineffable. When you're looking at a deity, whether it's in your mind's eye or in the smoke of the cauldron or whatever the fuck, you're looking at a projection. You're not seeing the deity. Now, the deity is a symbol. It's a representative. It is an archetypal representative of something that is noumenal. And that noumenal thing is always ultimately the same absolute, inseparable divine that you are. You too are a projection, a manifestation of that. And when I say you too, I'm talking about this little flesh puppet that you think is you. The absolute divine, the absolute you is not this. The absolute you is the silent witness, consciousness behind all of this. So let me tell you guys a quick little story. How many of you guys in the comments, show me in the comments if you've ever heard of the story of the 4 blind men and the elephant. Have you guys ever heard of the 4 blind men and the elephant? How many of you guys have ever heard of that? I'm going to tell the story anyway, but I want to just see by a show of doots, up doots, down doots, whatever you want to do. How many of you guys are familiar with the four blind men and the elephant? Sometimes like the 4 blind monks. No? Fresh to Death says no. Eddie obviously does. Dorian knows. Atropa, no? Okay. A lot of you guys are saying no. Okay, good. So this will be the first time. Stop it, Eddie. You're giving it all away. So 4 blind men live in a village, and they live in a village that are, we'll say this village is way out of the way. Nobody really goes there. But one day, a traveling caravan comes to this village, and it brings with it, as a pack animal, a great elephant. Now, these 4 blind men, they've never seen an elephant before. They were born blind, and they've never had an elephant ever around them. They've never had any encounter with an elephant before. They have no idea what an elephant is. But they've been told this great beast is here. You've got to come, well, not see it, but you got to come check it out. So they all go down to where the elephant is. And the first blind person, first blind man walks up, grabs the trunk of the elephant, and starts feeling around, and he says, "Oh my goodness, it's a great serpent. This is a great, powerful serpent, but it's warm. That's unusual, but it's a great, powerful serpent." Well, the second blind monk walks up to the elephant and grabs one of the legs. Says, "No, this isn't a serpent. It's a great big fleshy tree. This is an unusual kind of tree. I didn't know a tree could move. Is that what an elephant is? Is it a tree?" Well, the third blind person goes over and lays his hand over the elephant's flank, over its side, and he says, "You're all wrong. This isn't a tree or a snake. This is a wall of some sort. This is some kind of a moving wall. I've never seen anything like this. This must be enormous." And at last, the 4th blind monk goes over and he grabs the tail and he says, "Oh my God, you're all wrong. This isn't a snake. This isn't a tree. It's not a wall. It's a lion, and it's going to eat us. Run." Each one of them grasped the truth, but did not recognize it. They each had a real experience. None of them were wrong. Okay, none of them had an invalid experience. Each one of them had a valid experience of the elephant, but not one of them saw the elephant. Not one of them knew the elephant. Not one of them ever really got the elephant. They only got a little piece of it. And because of that, and because of their assumptions and projections, the elephant became a snake, a tree, a wall, and a lion. So when you're encountering the spirit world or the noumenal world or whatever words you like to use, it is exactly the same as that. Each one of us is seeing through we're like blind people encountering an elephant. You will encounter an enigma and an archetype. For example, there is an archetype of divinity that will present itself to people as Prometheus, as Lucifer, as Enki, as Shiva, or variations therein, or Loki, or even Odin, actually. Odin and Loki are interesting in that, like, they're both kind of like a little bit of that, if you read their mythology. It's kind of interesting to me. So you'll see these masks, basically. So a Luciferian will say, no, that's Lucifer. That's not Prometheus. And a Hellenistic pagan or whatever is going to say, no, that's Prometheus. And a Norse person is going to say, no, that's Loki. And a person from India is going to say, no, that's Shiva. And they're all right. Each one of them is right. Because they're each seeing a different perspective of what is fundamentally either the same or related, like very closely related enigma. What's up, Joffrey? Thank you for that. What's up, $4.99? Hello, everybody. It's 35 degrees Fahrenheit in Detroit, and extreme overtime has wrecked me, so here's $5. What's up? Thank you for that $5. Watch out for RoboCop. Hopefully he's going to clean up Detroit. It's about time. Kind of could use it. But thank you, Joffrey. So everybody is like the blind men and the elephant. Every single person. Everybody here who's ever seen or hasn't seen a spirit. So let's put this more into the context of spirituality. So put a room together filled with different people. Some who were demonolators, and some were Christians, and some were Satanists, and some were this and that, and put some skeptical science people in there. Put them all in that room and conduct a ritual which you can guarantee will have some sort of an effect. You'll get, some people will say, I saw a spirit. Another person will say, I saw God. Another person will say, and the skeptic's going to say, I saw a bunch of people hallucinating shit. They're all right. Because all of them, the archetype will still shine through the bullshit. If I go to a fully rational skeptic person who does not believe at all in these things, if I say to them, what does Lucifer represent? Of course, you have the Christian version and the not Christian version, but let's use Prometheus then. What does Prometheus represent? Each one of them will pretty much nail it, whether they've encountered Prometheus or not. Because we're working with archetypes, and those archetypes are archetypes of the same ultimate divine noumenal thing, the same formless one that we all are. The thing that's ironic is we're not just blind people touching an elephant. We're blind people touching an elephant at the end of a long, long pole. Because you don't even have direct contact with that. When you look at the sun, you don't see the sun. You see light that the sun has emitted, and that light has traveled thousands and thousands and millions of miles to bounce onto the back of your eyeball, and your eyeball is now transmitting that through your nerve endings to your brain. Your brain's processing it, and so on, like I said before. So really, you're looking at reality through an exquisitely long pole. You're feeling what the pole is. You're not feeling the world the pole touches. you've never seen the real world. Not if you think it's out there. Not even if you think it's in here. Because even in here is a hallucination. There is only here. There's no in or out. Everywhere is here. Every time is now. You are all these things. And all these things are you. So how am I setting the record straight? Because for some weird ass reason, some people have been following me for a while who think I'm some sort of theistic representative of their whatever the fuck dogma that they believe in. Just because I work with spirits, sometimes in a theistic manner, and actually sometimes in an atheistic one too. I actually don't play favorites on that level. I am just as comfortable working with a spirit from a purely rational metaphor perspective, as well as from a purely theistic one. I'm actually comfortable with both. I've experienced both equally, sometimes at the same time. So that's setting the first part of the record straight, if we want to call it that. I think most of you guys are going to say, yeah, I know that, Thorne. You've told me this so many times. I don't feel like it's new. You know, Eddie, and you know, Atropa, I should just take both of you right now and just cross slap you over and over again, because just today, for whatever reason, that fucking song came into my head, and I fucking hate that line about revved up like a deuce. Fucking hate that shit. You know how many years it took me to, because I never looked it up to know what the hell he was saying, and when I found it, I'm like, God, I hate this song. And I just keep repeating that line over and over. Oh, shut up with that shit. Ew, no. So that's a bit of negative synchronicity. You're both going in timeout. Eddie, I'm going to take that money to get a hit on you on the dark web. It's going to be a very cheap hit, so they're probably going to use a 22. And it'll probably be 22 air rifle. So it's I'm kidding. I'm kidding, FBI. That's a joke. I don't mean that. Yeah, don't kill me, Susan Wojcicki. It was just a joke. So what's part 2 of setting the record straight? This one may have been my fault, because it's part of what I have evolved into understanding. When I first began this work, I sort of knew this, but it has only been over the last couple of years that it's really clicked for me. And that is the recognition that nothing you do changes anything. And I've been talking about this for a while. I've been trying to figure out ways to describe it and explain it for a while. And I don't want to go too far into it, but people will hear what I say and think I'm saying that that I have no control, or that we're all at the mercy of some external force or something like that. I've been telling you since I started, you are that force, period. But that force is an illusion. Power is an illusion. Control is an illusion. And the best metaphor I've arrived at is to compare it to a dream. When you sleep at night and you're dreaming, you don't even have control over the dream, but the dream is doing everything you will. So what do I mean by that? Control implies resistance. Just that right there should be a big boom for a lot of people. Control implies resistance. Control implies some conflict on some level. In order for me to control this bottle has to resist my hand, right? Because control means you're forcing it. You're making it do what you want. When you dream at night, you don't control your dreams, because your dreams don't resist you at all. Your dreams are literally a reflection of the will. Your dreams are always a reflection of your will. The issue is a normal dream. You don't know that. And you are existing in a state of delusional conflict with your dream. So when you're dreaming at night, you think that your actions have consequences. You think that if you, I don't know, jump out of an airplane, you're going to fall, so you fall. It's your will to do all that. But jumping out of the plane doesn't make you fall in the dream. It looks like a consequence, but it's really just all part of that same ultimate will manifesting. There's no control at all. It's instant and spontaneous happening. Now, what's the difference between a regular dream and a lucid dream? In a lucid dream, you're going to have somebody say, oh, a lucid dream is a dream you have control of. Wrong. What defines a lucid dream is that you know you're lucid. You know that you're dreaming. You know that this is not what it looks like. You don't have control over a lucid dream. You simply realize you're dreaming. Well, but Thorne, I know when I have a lucid dream, it does what I want. It's always been doing what you want. It's just now you're conscious of that true will. You're no longer in conflict with the will. The will is now part of your consciousness. You go, I'm going to jump out of this airplane and I'm going to fly instead of fall. And you go, that means I have control because I predicted it and I made it happen. No. You didn't make anything happen. You manifested your will. This is why in magic, when we're talking to someone who really knows what they're talking about, and when I say that, I don't mean they're educated. I mean they've transcended the education itself. We're talking about someone who's transcended the lesson and actually gets it. They know that their will doesn't cause or force anything, and their desires don't force and cause anything. They don't say my magic caused something to happen. They say my magic manifested something, meaning to reveal it. What did it reveal? It revealed their will. Because their will is always done. Inevitably. Because, spoiler alert, right now you're dreaming. What? No, I'm not. I'm awake. Did you not just get through that lecture a half hour or whatever ago of me explaining to you that everything you're experiencing right now is a holographic hallucination happening in the mind of fucking God? Did I not just explain that to you? You're dreaming right now. It's just this is a little different kind of a dream than the nighttime dream. This dream is really filled with delusions where you believe everything is so fucking real that you're at the mercy of it. You feel alienated from the divine. You feel alienated from the truth. You feel like it's separate from you, but it's not. Because this is part of the game too. If you couldn't feel limitation, you can't feel exaltation. You must experience this period of imagined delusional limitation, lack of control, and thus control, because they go together. You have to feel out of control to feel control. You have to be capable of both. You can't feel either. But when you transcend these things, you recognize, even if only fleetingly, every now and then, that this is a dream and this dream manifests according to will. I had a super chat? Okay. Patchy, what's up, Patchy? He says, how does one flow to a much happier state of mind? Asking for a friend. You can't do it on purpose, but you do it by will. That does bring up an important topic, which I'll take a drink. Gogo asks, Legend, why when we see our dreams do we never see our body, but we only see... I see my body in my dreams. I don't know about you. I see my hands and everything. I have pretty vivid dreams most of the time. Let me get some other questions. I'm going to go to because Patchy's going to be guiding us into the next phase of this conversation. Jose asks, does it really matter what color candles you use when casting a particular spell? Of course not. It matters because of the symbolism behind them, but you don't even need candles. You can just draw pictures of them. Everybody's a little different. If you need candles, you need candles. But objectively, nobody needs candles. Does that make sense? Like, did magic fail until people had candles of the right color? Think of it that way. Of course not. Ooh, Odo, yes. Bringing up the Jesus vibes. Making my haters hate me more for not hating on the Jesus tribe. Yes, exactly. Like I say, you have to look really, you have to really peel away the layers of the onion, but Christianity has some good juicy stuff in there if you know where to look. So, okay. Patrick asked a question, which I'm going to answer obliquely. I'm going to come at an oblique angle to the answer. He's asking, how do you do something? How do you cause something to happen? How do you basically kind of change your will, I guess, is what you might say. There are certain words and concepts which are kind of like transcendent universal facts. All is will. All is consciousness. All is mind. All of these things are saying exactly the same thing, actually. Consciousness is the will, and will is the consciousness. The mind is the will, and the will is the mind, and mind is consciousness, and the mind. All of these things are activities of awareness, and that awareness is an activity of the divine, of the unspeakable, the formless one, Brahman, Atman, chaos, whatever the fuck you want to call it, God, whatever. Azathoth, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Right, Doc? I see Doc Stivel. I'm pretty sure he's a Cult of Cthulhu guy, if I remember correctly. They're all different ways of saying the same thing. The Tao is a great word for the will. If nobody said it, you should start saying it. And a lot of the times, I almost want to get rid of the word will and just replace it with the Tao, because Taoists get it. They understand. Taoists, at least the real ones, not the flaky, like, you know, meme version. I'm talking about like the real deal. Like you like the ones that really practice it. They understand that the will and the Tao are the same thing. And if they don't, they should. I'm pretty sure they do. Our word will means basically what their word Tao means. They're inseparable, the two words. They mean the same thing. The problem is people confuse desire for will. People confuse their desire for will because desire is a reaction to will. It is a manifestation of the will. When you desire something, that desire indicates something. It's a projection of the will in a sense, because very often what we desire is sort of like, a lot of times it is the will kind of like turning its head to go a certain direction, but it's not always going to go there. So there is a relationship between desire and will, but people get the confused. Like one controls, like they think that desire can control will, for example. People think that all they have to do is want something, desire it hard enough, and they can have it. As if desire shapes the will. That's actually, in my opinion, one of the hidden secret meanings when Buddhists say that desire is the root of all suffering. Because desire is precisely the opposite of the will. Because to desire something is not to have faith that it's happening. To desire something is to literally say, I don't have it now. Or I can't have it, I got to try to make it happen. Or I've got to take control over it. It's literally your dualistic disconnection from the truth. That's where desire comes from. You want something because you think you don't have it or can't have it. It's actually more complicated than that. The will manifests desire like it manifests everything else. So how does one change the will? The will cannot be caused. It is causeless. The will cannot be shaped or guided. It is the will. The will is the one. It is the first. It's the first cause. It is literally the magician card. It is it. It's the beginning. Everything follows the will. The will is not at the end of the sequence. It's always at the beginning. It manifests everything. You want to know the secret? The secret is transcending egoistic, identified being. I don't mean killing your ego. I don't mean like being ashamed of ego and being an egoless being. I'm saying transcending ego. The shortcut to that is to get the subvocal thinking, whatever your thought process is, to subside. When you can exist in the moment without thought and just let everything flow, that is when the will is manifest without delay. That is when acceptance of the will is present. Desire goes away. You simply act. When I am in that state, and I fluctuate in and out of it all the time, throughout the day, I'm in a state like that. Not every moment. I go in and out. You can tell when I'm really well united, I just flow through things. You can tell when I'm egoistic because now I've got anxieties or delays and hesitations. When I'm really flowing, things just go right through. There's no delay between will and action. Will and action are like that. They just happen. But remember, control is an illusion. The will is what's happening. When there is the will to be happy, happiness will happen. Until then, it won't. When there is the will to awaken and realize you are God, it will happen. It will not be stoppable. But until that will happens, you can't make it happen. This is why people say if you go out seeking your liberation, you won't find it. Because the seeking doesn't cause it. You can spend the entire rest of your life in whatever system of transcendental illumination you've ever thought of, master it back to front, memorize every scripture, teach the classes. You could master it like it's been imprinted into you throughout, and never reach transcendent illumination, moksha, nirvana, whatever the fuck your word is. Ever. Because it has nothing to do with learning. It has nothing to do with acquiring. It has nothing to do with effort or work. People say you have to work for liberation. That's just a game that they're playing. That's like someone saying you can't have your ice cream until you eat your dinner. You can have your ice cream. Go have it. Nothing's stopping you. You could wake up right now. You could realize you're dreaming just like that without anybody telling it to you. You could be sitting there on the beach and just, it clicks. Because you might realize, oh, I'm watching the sunset. And you might remember somebody telling you that because the sun is 1 AU away, that it takes about 9 minutes for the light from the sun to reach your eyes. So that means the sun may have already gone down past the horizon. Well, actually the earth turned, but you get the point. The sun may have already gone over the horizon, but you still see it. And that might trigger a realization like, holy shit, this is all kind of a hallucination, isn't it? Like, that's not reality at all, is it? And then boom, 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 and you just go like dominoes and a realization hits you. And those dominoes are all the things that cloud you from recognizing it. Here's another secret. Every single person listening to me right now, you've all experienced that transcendent hand of God, hesitance-free total flow moment at least once in your life, probably at least once today. You just don't notice it. The reason you don't notice is because you are attached to the egoistic stuff. I remember when I was a really young guy and I was first starting to learn about these things a little bit. I don't know if it was 13 or 12. Like, certain parts of my journey began younger and certain ones happened later. But I remember reading a book on hypnosis, and one of the chapters was about how to like silence your mind of thinking, basically. No visual, no this or that. I didn't learn that from a meditation class or something. I literally read a book that says, this is how you get your mind to quiet down so you're not being distracted by stuff. I'm like, oh shit, let me try that. Because when I read that, my heart skipped a beat. I felt scared for a moment. I'm like, what do you mean? What's it? You can exist without thoughts going on? Because my brain used to go a mile a minute back then. It was a constant brrrr. It was like full throttle all the time until I fell asleep. It was just one thought after another, like a fucking waterfall, and it was total anxiety, like the way I talk. So I talk fast and I talk a lot. Imagine my brain, how it must have been if this is my verbiage. Imagine my brain must have been. Holy fuck, it was annoying in there. So I was scared shitless. I thought, well, what's it like to like shut the thoughts off? Like, is that death? You know, am I not what I think I am? Like I already, as like a 13-year-old, had this thought. If thoughts go away, where do I go? It already occurred to me, like, that's weird. I gotta try this. This sounds cool. This sounds like a drug. I gotta stick this in my veins. Let me try it. So I tried it. And the book was very polite, and it said, you can't just stop thinking. That doesn't work. You can't just yell at yourself to shut up, right? You can't silence a cave by yelling at it. So how do you stop thinking? How do you silence your thoughts? So this book gave a very simple, proven method. And I've explained this before. It basically said to think the same thing repetitively. The way it described it, if I remember right, was to picture a blackboard and to take a piece of chalk in your mind and draw a letter or a number like the number 2. I'm pretty sure it said the number 2. So I'm going to stick with the 2. Draw the number 2 on the blackboard and just keep drawing that number 2. And while you're drawing it, every time you draw it, say it to yourself silently. 2. 2. And you can say it with your mouth at first. Just say 2, 2, 2, 2. So you draw it, and now start getting in the habit of erasing it. So you say 2, erase it. 2, erase it. 2, erase it. All right, good. You've gotten into the habit of repeating a 2 and erasing it. When you erase it, it goes away from both your visual and you're not saying it now. So it's 2, 2. Okay, now keep doing that, but now get the blackboard out of there. Get the whole idea of a blackboard. There's no more green. It's literally just the black behind your eyes. So close your eyes, and now imagine you're drawing it in the space in that darkness. 2, wipe it away. 2, wipe it away. 2, really get habitual with it. And then, when you're done doing that for a little while, make it take a little longer. Say 2, wipe. 2, wipe, and try not to put anything in between them. Try to have a space between them where you're not putting anything there. Just a little silence, just 2. Everybody can think silence. If you're listening to music and the song has a break in it, everybody can think silence for a moment. That's the great irony. Everybody can get to this silence. It's just that you're so busy trying to think it there, it doesn't happen. So 2, swipe, 2, swipe, 2, swipe, a little bit longer, just draw it out more, and then finally do 2, and then don't bring it back. And for however long that is, you'll be in absolute inner silence. For most people, it's like half a second. For most people, they're like, holy shit, I'm not thinking. Like immediately their thoughts come crashing back with, holy shit, I'm not thinking. And you just start blah, 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 again. So do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, until you can make it take 2 seconds, then 10 seconds, then a half a minute, then 3 minutes. I've said if you can do it for at least a minute, you can pretty much do any magic in the world. That's a beginner level, but that's at that point, it's just a matter of practice now. And that practice is just a habit. It's breaking you of a bad habit. And that bad habit, your egoism, is a product of that left hand blah, blah, blah in the back of your mind. That egoistic ideation of I am a person who exists and this is who he is and this is reality and I got to pay my taxes and I want to drink and I got to take a shit. That's egoism. That's what we're talking about. I'm not saying that the thoughts are ego. I'm saying, but that is where egoism, once the thoughts are silenced, ego is easier to transcend. If you've got a lot of subvocal or visual thoughts, ego's hard to transcend. Once you get the thoughts out, that egoistic identity just blows away on the wind. Without that egoistic identity, every single moment is a spontaneous act. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to, if you do that you're going to, upon doing that, have all the epiphanies that I've ever described. I achieved that silence for the first time, pretty much the first time I tried it. I was 13 years old. It took me until like, I don't know, 2016, 2015, 27 for it to fully go kaboom, I'm God. That it took all those years, including 15 years of being a hardcore skeptic, including years of practicing different kinds of magic, very poorly as a kid and then better as an adult. It took many years of fucking around before I felt comfortable letting go. Whew. Let me put some pixie dust up my nose. I should start doing coke because then I'd really start talking fast. I'd probably sound like somebody doing auctions. So if you want to find happiness, you've got to learn to take and silence that part of you that clouds you from seeing yourself. Someone had said before, saying mantras, same thing. Mantras, transcendental meditation, they all work on the exact same principle. There is a scientific version of it. There's a spiritual version of it, mystical version of it, a magical version of it. What do you think saying your chants to a spirit can be done as? When I do some of those binaural chant videos, like Lucifer, oh Lucifer, or whatever, those are one part entertainment, but if you notice, there's always a break in there with nothing. There's always a silence. There's always a delay before repetition. You're meant to get into this cycle of saying it along with me when I'm doing the video, and then in the space between, nothing, just the sound of the audio. Because it's not like all sound goes away. It's not that your mind shuts off. The point of this is not to be mindless, it's to have the mind be placid like a still pond. Then it will reflect reality way better. And that better reflection of reality will suddenly become obviously superficial. You'll recognize, just like any really sentient being can recognize themselves in the mirror, you'll begin to recognize yourself in all of this. You get it? Someone who has transcended and realized their divinity is just like an animal that can recognize itself in the mirror, except you realize that this is a mirror too. It's not just that thing that hangs on the wall. This is also a mirror. This is a mirror, because this is a projection too. A projection of what? Of you, the ultimate you, the noumenal you, the true divine you. So when someone misinterprets what I'm saying and I say, your magic doesn't cause change, do you understand what I'm saying? Am I insulting magic? People got like mad, like I'm insulting something they believe in. Like, you can disagree with what I'm saying, fine. But if you're insulted by what I'm saying, you got a whole fuck ton of shadow work to do. Fuck tons. We all do, by the way. That's not a judgment. Some people say, oh, he doesn't have control. No. D.H. Thorne has no control over anything. The formless one is dreaming it all, and that is what I am. When I am lucid, and I'm not lucid all the time, I spend a lot of time in a mortal state of mind where I'm like, I'm this dude and I got to pay my taxes and fuck you on Facebook and blah, 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 blah. But then I will have moments of clarity and lucidity and I will go, nope, silence, and it will click and I will flow, and suddenly I can flow and blow your brain out with my ability to talk and do what I want. There is no control because it is all as I will it already. But what if, Thorne, you want to see something that is not part of your mundane life? What if I want to see something that I don't see now? Well, first I have to recognize that that is a desire, not will. But that desire is a reflection of will. So I have to allow that desire space. I have to allow that desire space, and I'm allowed to act on it. There's nothing wrong with acting on desires. That's the point of this exercise is not so you don't act on desires. The point is to recognize that if I'm desiring, I've got to transcend this ego shit again. I've got to blank out and I've got to just let myself act spontaneously. And I've got to trust that that desire was a reflection, whether it's an accurate reflection or not. I gotta trust that that desire was a manifestation. So I've got to blank out and then just do spontaneously whatever the fuck it takes. There's different practices of magic you can do. There's all kinds of things you can do. And maybe this will be a conversation for another time. Except I will say that you're not controlling what happens. You're finding it in the multiverse and bearing witness to it. Thorne, I thought you said that this reality isn't real. How's there a multiverse? When I say multiverse, I mean that the dream that you're dreaming of reality has an infinite number of possible permutations in the way it can manifest. All of them are rooted in an infinite entity, which is the divine self, God, the formless one, Brahman, Atman, whatever beautiful word you like. That thing we're describing is both eternal, boundless, timeless, infinite, but it is all that there is. And so it is spaceless as well. It has no quantifiable element to it. And within that inquantifiable, ineffable, unspeakable presence, existence, being is the inspiration for literally everything. The way I put it is the formless one, which is the inspiration for all form. All forms that you see are inspired by the formless one. And the formless one is what you are. That formless one can manifest literally anything you can imagine. There's a really good analog for what I'm trying to say to you. I want everybody right now to use your internet devices, pick up your YouTube device, your internet device, and go to your favorite web browser and type into the web browser, preferably Google or some other bullshit, preferably not Google because they fucking fuck with results, but type into your favorite search engine machine the words Library of Babel, B-A-B-E-L. And I want you to go to that website that it says and read the about. That is the perfect analogy for what I'm describing. Within that Library of Babel is every single book that could ever exist, created as a random seed-generated, procedurally generated algorithm. Every single book that has ever been or could ever be written, be it in this language or any other, so long as it's using English characters, exists. That means somewhere in that book is a book that tells you the meaning of the universe. Somewhere in that book is a book that has the code for the most perfect virtual reality universe ever, and we could all live in it. It's got a code in there for literally anything that is imaginable. Would it work? Depends. But there's a code for it in there. There is a book that says it. You can find anything in there. and you can search for it, it means you got to know about it already. When you find it, you may find a page that says everything you're looking for. If you hit random pages will pop up, and every once in a while you'll get words that you can understand. So what I'm describing for you is the realization that you are, metaphorically speaking, you are the Library of Babel. And you are focused on a single page in that entirety of yourself. And that page represents this person you think you are, and you're reading it right now, and that's who you think you are. But you're really the whole library. You can be any page you want. You can go to any page you want. And when I say want, I don't mean want, I mean will. Got to correct myself because it's a linguistic problem, right? Like I said, we all confuse desire for will, don't we? All of us. I see people saying hello to the beautiful and illustrious Behemoth X. What's up, Behemoth X? How's it going, brother? Oh, yeah. Behemoth X said, cult leaders always say, if you don't accept what I believe, then it's your ego that's in the way. And if you destroy your ego, then you can accept my truth. Hey, DH, what's up? Are you calling me a cult leader? My wife's telling me I got another super chat. You know what's ironic about that, though, Behemoth, is sometimes that is the case. And it's not that cult leaders don't do that. Cult leaders like to... So... The best deceivers will deceive you with true words, right? Some of the worst charlatans in the world are people who have learned to parrot this kind of stuff, and then they've never actually achieved a realization, but they've memorized it so well that to people who haven't had that realization, they're believable. But someone who's had the realization, when they see a parrot, they know a parrot when they see one. Don't ask me how we do, but we do. We know a parrot when we see one. I'll give you an example of a parrot. Jim Carrey's a parrot. He talks about this stuff a lot now. I'm not saying he's never had a taste of it. I think he did have a taste of it, but I don't think he actually... I think he's a parrot. I think he's learned to memorize a lot of it because he's still integrating it. So like he might have had a moment of realization. Now he's trying to integrate it, but he's trying to be a teacher while he's doing it. We've all done that, by the way. I've done it myself. He's trying to be a teacher while he's doing it, and he's listening to teachers and parroting them and trying to put that in his own words, and he hasn't actually done it yet, though. Just like I fully admit, I spend a lot of time not doing it and parroting it myself, just so you know. Now, someone like Meister Eckhart Tolle, most of the time, he's not parroting. Alan Watts, I never heard him parrot once. Maybe when he was younger in his early lectures, maybe a few times, but not generally, not the stuff he's famous for. Nah. Terrence McKenna never parroted anything. That's why I love these guys. That's why I love them, because they're sincerely genuine about what they're experiencing. They're not parroting. They're talking about what they've realized. I love those people to death. That's what I like. Not the parrots. My wife said I had another super chat. Who was it? Patrick. Where was that? Oh, got to check out this site after work. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Patchy. Definitely do it. It's really good. So you can trust that I would probably never tell you that your ego's in the way of you realizing the truth. I might say your ego's in the way because you're being a dick about it, but I don't think so. Yeah. It's funny how I internalize that, huh? How, Behemoth? That's funny. I don't know what Doc's talking about. I must have come into something he's saying later. He says robes and castration kits will be available for $5.99 on sale this October 31st. I'm not sure. Did I miss a reference? Are you guys talking about stuff and I'm not looking at it? Because I took off the comments so I could have my rant. But I don't remember, Doc. Was I right on you? Did I say you're like one of those Cult of Cthulhu guys? Because I've been curious about that stuff, because I do love the Lovecraft angle of some of the stuff I'm talking about. I've actually recently decided to start framing things in the perspective of sort of saying that like my philosophy is like a cross between cosmicism and non-duality. Like somewhere in the crossroads of those two crazy things, that's where I'm at. So, oh, you're a cult leader. Okay, cool. The cult leader or what? That's pretty cool. Behemoth X wants to talk about Kanye West. Kanye West. You know, I saw somebody, I'm not going to name names because that might be a little bit much, but there's somebody I saw recently all day long yesterday bitching and moaning how all everybody wants to talk about is Kanye West. And I'm like, dude, that's all this person's posted about all day. Like, that's it. There's like nothing else. Like, holy crap. Kanye West is a distraction so you don't pay attention to everything else going on. I'm not saying that what Kanye West was true or wasn't true or isn't important or is important. I'm not saying anything, but I will say that, yeah, good point, Behemoth X. Don't get myself in trouble. I don't want to say too much because the YouTube censors will come and get me. But I will say that it's a distraction. It's meant to be a distraction for the little minds. So those little minds are distracted by the shiny, and the shiny in this case is the drama of, oh yeah, sorry, I mean ye. Thank you, Fresh to Death. I don't care about Kanye. I have no opinion of him one way or the other. He's just some rich guy. He's probably a parrot too. He probably says what he gets paid to say. These guys are dancing puppets. Very few of them have. Very few people in the entertainment industry tell you their actual opinion. They're almost all bought and paid for. It's a distraction. That's not to say that the distraction doesn't have truth in it, because the best distraction is something real. The best distraction is something you can work with. You know, when he said, I don't want to repeat it too hard, but when he was told to go visit a museum, if you don't know, look this up. And he said, go look at a clinic because that's our museum. I'm like, now look, being a pro body sovereignty type of person, I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your body. I think you should have a right to do what you got to do. I'm not saying there can't be any reasonable limits to it, but I am saying that those limits are pretty open in my mind. Y'all should be able to do whatever you got to do to live your life. If that means you got to take the baby out, you take the baby out. If that means you leave it in, you leave it in. Doesn't mean you get to do it like all the way till it's born, but I think you should be able to do that. I don't think anybody should get in your way for it. But at the same time, when I read that, I'm like, there's a lot of people who resonate with what he just said. Because if you look up the people who are getting that procedure done the most, kind of is what he's saying, isn't it? It's not a pleasant fact. It's not a convenient fact, but it does seem to be one. Now, how you interpret that fact is up to you. You could say, oh, this is racist. You can say that this is him being whatever. You can say this is them being whatever. I'm not weighing in either way. I'm just telling you the facts. You can make up your own mind on it. But that's what makes it a distraction, because it is really it's really flammable stuff. It's really inflammable stuff. You know, it's not this. He didn't put water on a fire. He put gas on a fire with that one. And that doesn't mean he's wrong. It doesn't mean he's right, but it stirred up a shitstorm. And now he's getting sued all over the place, and Alex Jones is getting sued, and all these people are getting ruined. And you know what you're not talking about? You're not talking about Nord Stream 2 being pretty much proven to be America without saying it. You're not being told how people are going to be starving and freezing this winter in the UK. And I'm talking about the average person. Maybe you are. But the average person's going, did you see what Yee said? They're not talking about the other shit. You have 3 more seconds. Holy cow, you guys are being generous tonight. Patrick says, I am a genius. I am not a gay fish. Oh, so you don't like fish sticks? The hell? I like fish sticks. Behemoth X says, California, 26. Now that's Canadian, 2666. Thank you, brother. Thank you for that. Without even a comment. You guys, you guys got a live stream so I can actually throw you some money once in a while. Astarte Astaroth says $3. Oh, Fisting Hippo. I know Astarte Astaroth because I knew who that was, but when I saw the Fisting Hippo, I instantly knew who that was. What's up, Astarte? What's going on? I like to say Astarte, personally. Fisting Hippo, it's been a little while. We got Satan in the house. What's up, Satan? I missed you. Is this the same Satan that's at the Iron Garden, or is this a different Satan? What's up, Satan? Speaking of Iron Garden, I am going back this, not this Friday, the 28th. I'm going back to 28th with my wife, and Siege is coming with us. At least he says he's coming. So Siege is going to meet us there. If you guys got along with us and hung out with us, we're going to be there again this coming, not this Friday, but next Friday at the next event. So, oh, and we're also going the 11th because there's a movie night, and Camilla's going to be bringing some mirrors to auction. So that's going to be cool. Yeah, DN Black, it might have went over my head. Oh, wait, no, I get the gay fish thing now. Never mind. I remember. That's right. I even said the line from that same episode about fish sticks, because that's what happened, right? Isn't that what happened that pissed him off? Because they asked him if he liked fish sticks, and he's a gay fish, and he gets all mad and starts fucking up people. I remember it, DN Black. Come on, man. Come on. Don't fucking do me wrong. Damn it. That's why I said the fish sticks things. I don't like when I am not funny. I am offended. DN Black, you are cursed to laugh at me instead of appreciate what I have to say. I'm glad you're doing good, Astarte. I'm doing pretty good. Like I said, I've kind of gone through this next metamorphosis. One thing that people won't like about this metamorphosis is that I've downgraded or downplayed or put theurgy down a little bit. I've taken theurgy and said, okay, you know what? Spirit world, I need a break. I'm not burned out, but I'm burned up, right? I've had enough, like, trying to fit some, sort of image, and I've gotten what I need from it already for now. Like, I'll go back to it. I'm not saying I'm done with it, like, oh, I'll never do it again, but I've kind of put it down because it's not really serving me right now. It's actually becoming a distraction. You know, spirits can be a distraction. Sometimes they're not. Some people need them their whole life, but sometimes spirits can be a distraction. It's sort of like this. The path that I've been on, you start as one voice, hearing tons of voices. Right? And it's just a big, loud, blah, 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 blah. It's like a crowd. And then you single out a few voices and you listen to them. And then you start transcending the whole thing and it becomes a crowd again. And it's like, fuck. And eventually you pull away and there's silence because you hear the whole chorus at once. And you no longer hear specific spirits. You hear the inner voice. You hear the source voice. So I've sort of taken a step away from individual personified spirits towards going to the source and getting just a clear, just stream of consciousness. And it's totally different. Is there an identified spirit in there somewhere? Flickers and flashes, but it's not the same thing. I certainly don't have to do rituals to do it. I kind of never had to. Rituals were just kind of fun, but it was never a requirement. Rituals were always kind of like doing it, but with some art along with it. And I'm sure a lot of other people would agree with me that practice like demonolatry and all that stuff, that the rituals are, if I say formality, that's an ugly word. I don't mean that, but rituals are sort of a special occasion thing. You do it when you first meet the spirit. You do it when you really want to make a big deal of it, when you're trying to really do an operation with it. But spirits will talk to you whether you do a ritual or not. And you can talk to them whether you're doing a ritual or not. Do you think a Christian can only talk to Jesus in church? Of course not. That's the point. Why should they be more free to talk to their deity than you are? Whether you're theistic or not. Why should you only be able to talk to a spirit really when you're in a ritual? That's bullshit. Bullshit. You should be able to talk to your spirit anytime. I mean, you should at least be able to talk to it, whether you can hear it or not. That's different. Everybody's different that way. Some people have to do it in ritual or else they don't get shit. Not me. In fact, ritual can slow me down. Yes, I agree with the meditation thing. But the thing is with meditation, like that's a word without meaning, but I think we all know what we're talking about. I don't want to be that guy, but like there's a guy I watch on occasion, Thuria Apophasis, and he said it, and I love the way he said it, is that meditation is a word without meaning. It really doesn't mean anything. But we all know what we mean when we say it. So what kind of meditation, right? Are we talking about, transcendental? We're talking about, mantras? What are we talking about? So Eddie says, pants really slow him down in ritual. I get that. I totally get that. Wyatt's asking about Jinn and Islamic occultism. Nope, not my bag. I never mess with it much beyond the superficial stuff. There's a guy who used to watch and occasionally watches and still watches and comes back and does live streams. Jafar, whatever his name is. I forget. I think he watches Behemoth as well. If anybody remembers his actual name, let me know because I'm bad with names. But he's here a lot and he knows a fuck ton. I don't know if that's like he always knows. Like he's a very learned person. Like I've never actually like I don't know if he and I have ever really strongly disagreed on anything, but I'd hate to have to like acknowledge him because he knows a lot. So. So in a way, what I'm describing earlier is sort of like the ultimate form of possession. It's to when you silence the egoistic self, when that is, it's not that you're killing it. The ego is still part of this equation because you're still having a mortal experience. If you're having a mortal experience, ego is still there. Anybody who says that they can live a life without ego is lying to you bad. Ego is built into the mortal dream. You can have a lucid mortal dream, but it's still a dream, and you're dreaming that's mortal. And mortality is egoism. You know when you really are like no ego? When you go into deep samadhi, deep gnosis, deep ritual, and there's just oblivion, and there's not even you, but there's still consciousness there. You're still aware. There's still a being. But it doesn't have any identity and there's no shape, no form, no nothing. Now you're talking about an egoless state. But you don't live in that state. You're not going to go to the store and buy groceries in an egoless state. I don't care if you're some Buddhist monk who's always smiling, some Shaivist, some Luciferian, some whatever. Doesn't happen. If you're here and you're seeing me talk, there's ego. But there is habitual ego. There is cheddar ego. There's different levels of ego. Ego that is in its proper place is silent. It's a facilitator, not a credit taker. Ego is like a habitual credit taking. So when ego is properly in its proper place, but you're still in a mortal state, ego is silent. It's part of the witness. It's part of the equation of relativistic relationship that you're having. In order for there to be an experience of self and other, there must be an illusory self. And if you're having a mortal experience where you're not seeing the totality of everything at once, you're having a self. But that doesn't mean that that self has to run the show or take credit for the show. It's just a representational perspective. So, when you've transcended that egoism a little bit, that is an ultimate form of possession, because you're being possessed by the infinite. You're being possessed by the formless one, by Brahman Atman. That is what's possessing you, not a personified spirit, which is just another ego. You're being possessed by the infinite. That is the ultimate possession. The hand, to be the hand of God. That is the ultimate. That is the best kind of possession you can experience. You probably won't even care about the other kinds so much. Patchy, I hope you got a better job or something, because you're being very generous tonight. Hell, I can call upon my gods and goddesses with my thoughts alone. I've successfully employed the 50 names of Marduk without an altar or any seals, and I've become quite close to my gods doing it. Yeah, dude, like I've often said, thank you for your comment, man. Like I've often said, you don't have to fuck around with any of the superficiality of magic at all whatsoever. I do believe that you should be working with a holistic perspective. There's probably something physical you're doing, and something mental you're doing, and something spiritual you're doing when you're doing magic. Always, there should be. And if you want to affect something in the material world, you probably need more of a material element to your ritual or whatever it is you're doing. And if there's something more spiritual, you need more of a spiritual element. If it's something mental, you want more mental stuff. Yeah, that's a good point, Wyatt. Yeah, that's a good point. When I say semantical, I don't mean that as an insult. From a semantical perspective, you're right to correct me. Yes, it is a little bit more of a realization than a possession. You're right. I'm saying it like in a colorful way. You're actually right. I stand corrected on that to that degree. Let's see. I noticed that Astarte asked, does your philosophy include understanding tattvas, the layers of becoming? Yeah, my thing is that so for me, everything started with a realization, and I've been working over the last half decade plus to learn to articulate that realization. And part of that is studying other traditions, incorporating the things that I like into it. But none of those things become what I am. Meaning, I do a lot of study of Advaita because Advaita is simple. So what I like about Advaitanism is it's basically just, it's a simple set of perspectives and dialogues that can help you get those perspectives. But it is not a belief system, and it's not a practice per se. There are non-dual practices, Advaitin practices. Shaivism, I guess, is one of them. There's a couple. There's many Advaita-oriented practices. I am not a learned scholar on Hindu religions, so no. I'm going to say that no, I don't. It's not that I don't agree with them. It's just that I've never really researched them. They're probably really good models. Knowing my experience with Indian philosophy, they're usually spot on some level. Sometimes they could use a little augmentation in English or a little bit of wordplay or a little colorful stuff. They're usually pretty good. Like I prefer, in case you guys haven't noticed, Indian philosophy to Western. That doesn't mean that I am a learned Indian philosopher. What it means is I've had a realization, and the Indian version of things tends to resonate, not perfectly, but the best with what I've realized. So I tend to use a lot of the same dialogues that I've found to help with my own articulation of what I've found. To put in my own words that which I've realized, but using those dialogues as an example of things to think about. No, Wyatt, you were good. You didn't harsh my... You were right. You were right, young man. You got me. Let me pop this back up. Get confused. We're getting on there, an hour and a half. I'm probably going to do another half hour tonight. So I've been trying to stop from doing like 5 hours at a shot. I am having fun though. Yeah, Wyatt, it's a good point. I mean, the real universe is kind of boring, he says. I can't tell which is better, knowing I'm everything forever and that all of my thoughts and memories didn't really happen, or letting myself reside comfortably within the illusion. Feels kind of lonely either way. And this is why you have... So, this is one of the great difficulties of realization. There is a tendency when you're in an egoistic state for it to be a nihilistic realization. It feels depressing because ego doesn't like knowing it's not real. So it feels a little nihilistic and it feels like, man, I wish all this was real. How do you think I feel when I find myself focused on a very mundane reality most of the time? That is to say, there isn't paranormal stuff happening and I can't snap my fingers and make something appear out of the darkness, and it sucks. Like, I want to be able to like use telekinesis and make shit float around, and I'm convinced somewhere in the multiverse that exists, and I haven't been able to reach that dimension of the multiverse with my will because my will just isn't to do it right now, I guess. So it's like my ego is very disappointed and there's a nihilistic feeling to that. Then I go into meditation. Then I go and do a little whatever, if you know what I mean. And I disobjectify. And it's all good. At that point, it's all good. There is no disappointment. There's no loneliness. There's no sadness. But it is, when I'm in an egoistic frame, I will look at my wife and feel a little sad because she doesn't exist as I see her. She's me in another body. There's no other person called wife. That's just the divine too, coming at me as the wife, and I'm coming at her as the husband. So from a certain frame of thinking, it is sad, but from another frame of thinking, it's not. Okay, so yes, Light says, hey DH, what are your thoughts Neo Advaita? If you don't know about Jim Newman, you should check out his videos. I'm sure you'll like them. I'm familiar a little bit with it. I don't know if he's related to the Science and Non-Duality website and project. I love that website. I go there quite often for quick little, so like when I'm looking for an answer to something technical about Advaita, I go there a lot. But I don't know him specifically. I'd have to look him up to see if I know. But Neo Advaita, look, a traditionalist takes shits all over it, and like chaos Advaitans, so to speak, would say it's great. I am not. I've said I'm an Advaitan, perhaps. I might have intimated it, but I'm not really. Advaita is just one of the great descriptors for a realization which transcends all these religions, that is behind every, in my opinion, great religion. Every one of the greatest religions has had the same realization by one of its founders or one of its teachers. If you look, you see this every time. Usually it's covered up by the orthodox religions and turned into a system of control. Christianity is the best example of that. If you read the Bible a certain way, it's obvious that it was written by people originally who had like some kind of ego death / hardcore psychedelic trip / non-dual awakening, told their story to people. It became a religion, got perverted into a system of control with all kinds of dogma thrown on top. And that's that, which makes it really sad. Because somewhere in there is the realization, it's just covered up by layers of control. So what's Neo Advaita? It's just, to me, it's just, it's a way of trying to pull Advaita out of some of that traditional quagmire of dogma that's associated with traditional Advaita. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter because ultimately the realization is the key. When there is realization, the rest is just words we use to describe it. You can use Neoplatonic words. You can use Gnostic words. You can use Neo-Advaitin words, or Christian, or Jewish, or Kabbalistic, or Hermetic words. They'll all fit if you've had the realization, if that realization is legitimate, you will look at every single one of these and say, they're all different blind monks holding an elephant, and they're all right and they're all wrong. None of them as a teaching are completely right, and none of them are completely wrong. They're all, and I don't want to say equally valid like in some kind of hippy dippy new age sense. They're all right in the sense that from their originating source, they all saw the same truth and tried to describe it, and this is what we get. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm writing stuff the same way. Someday what I'm writing, if I ever get more famous than I am, or maybe it'll only happen when I'm dead, whatever it is I'm writing now, if it's ever finally published, maybe that'll become the origin of another thing. Thornism or manifestationism is what I hope you call it. Whatever that is, whatever that becomes, it's just another dialogue, another finger pointing at that realization. People who have that realization will read these things and laugh and say, ha, I was stupid for parroting it. I was stupid for memorizing it. That was dumb. The point was to have the realization. And after you have that realization, life goes back to exactly the way it was before. Just as the Zen guys say, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. That's got a lot of meanings, by the way. Just the one that I'm saying is just one. Is that it doesn't change, but nothing is the same. Yeah, Starte, that's true. And I think Jesus was actually, if he lived at all, if he wasn't just a myth or a collection of people that was turned into a myth, I do believe that there is at least a twinkling of truth to the idea that Jesus visited India or parts of India or near India and learned certain mystical things from those people and brought it to the Middle East and told it through the lens of rabbinical Judaism. I do think that's very likely. Is it what happened? I don't know. It's what feels right when you read the different Gnostic Gospels and different apocryphal Gospels. It does seem plausible. So why it's talking about the Goetia, he says, Islamic occultism has the 72 jinn of Suleiman, similar to the 72 spirits of the Ars Goetia. And of course, Suleiman is basically Solomon, by the way. It's the same guy. I haven't proven, but it's okay. So you're basically saying what a lot of people know, and that is that they're all kind of the same thing told from a different culture. The Goetia is a product of medieval superstition, borrowing from things like that stuff. The people of the medieval period were living in a very, very, very fog of war kind of ignorant period. They didn't have, the network of information that people even 1,000 years before them had. Like, a lot of people think that people of the ancient world didn't travel and didn't communicate. People, some peasant living in England, shoveling shit, probably had no idea that China existed. But I wouldn't doubt for a moment that the King of England did. At least not after a certain point. People knew about the world. People knew about the distant lands. They didn't know what they were. They were just rumors and myths in some cases. But if you go to like the Mediterranean, that's a totally different story. People in Greece had regular contact with people from India and all over the world, and people in India too, and people in Israel and so on. There was a lot of travel in that region. A lot of holy people wandering around, a lot of philosophers. So there's a lot of overlap in what they believed. If you look, it was a melting pot of spirituality, that entire region, a melting pot of philosophy and spirituality, a really remarkable one. There's a reason why the word chakra is actually the Greek word kakra. It means the same thing. It's the same word. The Greeks and the Indians were like butt fucking each other. All right, that's very disrespectful, but basically for a long time. There was a lot of overlap. So when we're talking about the Goetia, we're talking about a period of time where we had a bunch of medieval people who didn't have access to that anymore because it was a much more insulated period where there wasn't quite the same exchange of information. So there was a lot of corrupted information that made its way to Europe and became things like the Goetia. And you have Johann Weyer. This is just my opinion, of course. There's probably scholars who know better than me. It's just my opinion. And you have people like Johann Weyer who took these things, put them in his Pseudomonarchia Demonium, the false hierarchy of demons, because he was trying to prove that all of this stuff was just mental bullshit. He was trying to prove that demons and spirits weren't real. So he cataloged them all. But he was actually still, interestingly enough, a demonologist, and did have spiritual beliefs. So there's some kind of half and half there. From my understanding, he left a lot out because he was afraid people would use it, whatever that means. I'm not a scholar enough to know. But yes, of course. That's right. Astarte, chakra means wheel in Sanskrit, and kakara means wheel in Greek at the time. Exactly right. No, it's actually, Wyatt, chakra came from Greece, not the other way around. It's a borrowed loan word from Greece. It's a Greek word that was borrowed. The principle of chakras isn't unique to India. The Greeks had them too. They just didn't call them the same thing. Plato had 3 different centers that had similar function in many ways to, again, yoga and working with chakras and all of this stuff. It's not purely unique to India. There's just, the question is, where did it come from first? I don't know. Some would say they mutually arose, and some would say there was a lot of cultural shift and sharing, and they all developed it at the same time, and they're all reflections of each other. But if you look it up, there isn't one ultimate, original, best, pure, traditional version of chakras, for example. If you go to India, not go to India, but if you study this stuff a little bit, just superficially, you'll find that there is no right or wrong way to look at them, because the history of chakras and working with them goes back so far, and there's so many different schools of thought on it, even in India, that to say one of them is true, it's like saying one version of Christianity is true. There's so many different versions of it. Like, which one's right? I don't know. Yeah, and some people, Alpha says it came from Egypt, and there's people who say that, and they've got evidence for it, and I've seen it, and it's like, yeah, probably, because now the question is, we say from Egypt, what time period are we talking about? Because, you know, there's the Hellenistic Egypt, right? There's the Egypt of like 1000 BC, and then there's the Egypt of like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8000 BC. When and where did it come from? This is where we get off into the I don't knows, and everyone's going to have their own kind of, take on it, because there's no ground of proof. There's just a bunch of speculation based on old symbols and shit that people are interpreting through modern eyes. We don't know. But I will say this, that regardless of where you think they came from, take the word chakra out. Okay, because when people hear chakra, it's immediately Indian shit. Take the word chakra out and now replace that with center of awareness. Because the chakras really, if you really boil it down, they're centers of awareness in the body. Now, I say in the body, I don't mean just the physical body. I mean in the avatar, the psycho-spiritual, holistic body. They're centers of awareness in the holistic, you can say energy body too, whatever your vision of reality is, they're centers of awareness in that. They correspond and associate with physical properties and spiritual properties and so on, but they're not physical objects. They're not objects of any sort. Objects form around them. Mental depictions, mental constructs, and physical things form around them, if you will. But they are by themselves centers of awareness in your being. When you recognize that they're centers of awareness in your being, they're centers of relativistic relationship and awareness. The root chakra is your awareness and relationship with the foundation and firmament of existence itself. The sacral is your sensual relationship. It's like more of just a receptive feminine awareness of sensuality, of physicality. It's like a connection from the heart from the true self, from the source to the physical. It's the sensory side of that. The solar plexus is the active, it's the projective, it is the I'm doing, I am this, I am causing, that is what that is. But it's still a center of awareness. And people say it's here. Well, it's really anywhere you want. You can put it here if you want. You can put your solar plexus chakra right there. That's the center of my projected awareness. Bang. If you want to. It's a center of awareness. And that center of awareness is non-local, it's non-physical, but we can associate it with a physical part of us. And we do, we put it in our solar plexus. The heart, we say it's here. The heart isn't really, the physical heart, I suppose. Your heart chakra is not really here. And it's not here, and it's not here, and it's not. But this is where you center it. This is where your center of awareness for it is, in your physical self. And the heart is the connection to the ultimate. People will say like, oh, the crown is a connection to the source. No, the crown is a connection to a spirit part. It's like the other side of the coin. The heart is really where you're linked. The heart is really where the divine is connected. Really. Like that's like the direct line. The throat is how one communicates. And when I say communicate, I don't just mean speaks. I mean, it's a spiritual communication. It's where one communes. It's where one projects into the spirit. Have you ever noticed that you can have a spiritual realization but can't get it to come out physically? Because blah, blah, blah is not the throat chakra. Blah, blah, blah is actually the solar plexus talking. It's coming out the physicality. It's a physical action. That's talking. True communication transcends the physicality. True communication is the download of the divine. It's the download of divine realization. That's real communication, the back and forth of that. It's the upload and the download. Communicating with the divine is the throat chakra. I communicate with the totality of the divine when my throat chakra is working right, you could say. What about the third eye or the ajna or whatever? Some people say there's two in there, not really one. However you want to put it, this center of awareness, that's where the realization is. It could be visual, it could be non-visual, but that's where the receptive is. The spiritual reception, not the reception, but the recognition of the reception. And the reception's in the crown, and people say it's up here, but it's not really up here. This is just a center of awareness for it. People say that's the crown chakra. Well, it's where we put it in our body, but that's not really the crown. The crown chakra is not here. That's a center of awareness, and that center of awareness is connected to the ultimate of spiritual divinity. So you have the ground of divinity, the physicality of divinity, the spirit of divinity, and the true divinity here in the center. And then you got two more, depending upon your system. You can put two more, two external. Some will say there's 114. There's 112 in the body and two outside. There's different systems. Everybody's got a different one. None of them are better or worse. Use any one you want. I like just 7, and I just leave it there. I don't really care about all that other stuff. You can do it if you want. They all have their use. I personally just use 7. Use more if you want. They all have their purpose. The way I see it is the crown and the root are actually the same thing. Just hold on to your ass here for a minute. I see it as the crown and the root are the same thing, but they're opposite sides of each other. So the crown chakra is really the bottom of the root chakra, and the root chakra is the top of the crown chakra. It's like, you have to imagine they're going through like another dimension, and they're linked, and they're the same thing. Because, why do I say that? And the reason I say that is because when you've transcended a lot of this illusory world, you realize that the spirit and the physical are both equal projections of the same noumenal truth. So the spirit world, the world of gods and thoughts and ideas and forms that have no substance to them, that's the spirit world. Whether you can see it or just think of it or whatever, that's the spirit world. The physical world is the world of substance, in which substance fills the forms. And if you notice, they don't really come separated. You can focus on one or the other. Like I can focus on the physical to the exclusion of the form, and I can focus on the form to the exclusion of the physical, but I can never actually separate them forever. Like they're always, it's really the same thing. being seen in two different ways. So that root chakra is connected to that physicality, and the crown is connected to that spirituality, but they're both connected together as one. Yes, Kether is in Malkuth and Malkuth is in Kether. Correct. You see the correspondences here? This is why I say when you have the realization, they all start to look like the different blind people holding an elephant. They're all telling you the same things. Now, the other version of that story goes that they go on together later and they put all their stories together and they figure out what an elephant looks like. Or someone else comes along and describes the elephant and then they realize what they were seeing and they got it. So there's different ways to interpret it. But the point I'm making is that they're all pointing at the same thing. But they're pointing at it from a certain perspective. And you can use them all or you can use none of them. It doesn't really matter. They're all fair game. If you want to be an Advaitin or you want to be a Shaivist, if you want to be a Kabbalist or a Hermeticist, you want to be a Gnostic or whatever. The only warning I would have is that some of these things are derivative, like Gnosticism is a derivative. It didn't form out of itself. I don't know if that makes sense. Gnosticism took from Platonism and Neoplatonism. And even Kabbalah was influenced by Neoplatonism. People will say like Kabbalah is thousands of years old. On one level, yes, but on another level, it was heavily influenced by Neoplatonism. It evolved, okay? To my understanding. Some people are going to say, that's not true. To my research understanding, that's true. So around the same time, the Gnostics and the Kabbalists were inspired by the Neoplatonists and the Platonists. It's all sort of one big melting pot. But Gnosticism, for example, my issue with them is they are, I don't know what you'd call them, anti-materialist, I guess, to the point where they think that this is all evil and bad and we've got to escape it and this is the product of Demiurge, we got to get out of it. The problem with that way of thinking is you're giving it a huge amount of power by thinking this is bad. This is your playground. Like a lot of Christians have often said poetically that we've never left the Garden of Eden, we just don't see it anymore. And that I kind of agree with. Right now, this is paradise. It's just a matter of seeing it that way. Most of the time, nobody does. I don't. But every now and then, every once in a while, I get it. And I'm just, I go outside, I'll look up at the stars. And I'll realize there's no stars out there. The stars are in my mind. And I'll realize that that infinite expanse of time and space is only infinite because I think I'm finite. If I knew what I was, I would know that I am that infinity, and that infinity too would fade into nothing. And I realize that no matter how far into the distance I look, I'm still looking at myself. And there's some part of me out there looking back at me and thinking, wow, I'm out there too. There's some alien on some distant rock somewhere, bajillions of light years away, looking in this direction going, I'm out there. Yeah. That'll make you stay up at night. And you won't look at the world like, oh, this sucks. You'll look at the world like, I'm lucky to be here, even though it might suck. That suck is part of the fun. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'll walk down the street another day and I'll stub my toe and I'll curse my very existence. I'm listening to some mellow music. That's why I'm kind of getting mellow. Deanne Black says, the 2DH at the crown is the pituitary and pineal gland, which allows you to experience magic itself if conditioned correctly. I mean, I've seen all that stuff about the glands, and my position is unchanged on the nature of reality. I think that they are experiences you can have. That is to say, they don't exist as those things, but they definitely look that way. And can that operate that way? I'm not going to say it doesn't. I'm sure that I don't know, because I don't put that much stock in the in the material as in that way. Like, I don't think that there's like a gland that I got to wake up to do magic. I don't see it that way. That's too much like a machine, right? That's too much like a vending machine. It may be that gland wakes up when you get good at magic. Maybe if someone did a test of me, they'd be like, holy shit, this guy's pineal gland hasn't been calcified in 30 years. I don't know. Maybe my pineal gland is more calcified than my teeth. I don't know. I don't care. Like, I think that's a way that some people cope. Let me just say it. I think that's the way people cope. I think people cope with a lack of realization by turning it into a machine. Because humans can understand machines. But you're not a human. See? That's what I'm trying to tell you. So, I think it's a way of coping. That's just my take. Oh, I see. You're saying that those are the chakras. I mean, like I said, I don't think the chakras are physical. I think that they're centers of awareness. And those centers are non-physical. They correspond potentially with physical things like you described, the pituitary and the pineal. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I don't care about that part. Like, I like, if I seem like I'm saying it, that's because I don't care. Like, that's like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good metaphor to make it funny, to put it in perspective. That's like asking a bird if it cares what the bottom of the ocean smells like. Like, it's just a different world from mine. I don't find it important. I'm not saying it's unimportant. It's just, to me, it's not important. It's not in my wheelhouse that much. I don't go by the physicality of it. I go by it's a center of awareness edition. And it's worked very well for me that way, because I don't get locked up in like figuring out which gland is fucking up, and that's why my chakras don't work. I never, that doesn't work for me. It's like I said before, they're two sides of the same coin. It's the physicality and the spiritual, and when you put them together, you get the noumenal. And that noumenal is where the chakras really are. Wyatt. I mean, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of symbolism with the flowers, you know, with using lotuses with different numbers of petals. It's all symbolism, and there's a lot of math and stuff. You know, a lot of it is, you know, the number 108, number 72. All these numbers come back crashing at us. The number 108 is a very important number. If you understand why, you know a lot about Pythagoras, and I don't know enough to really teach it, but I do recognize it when people talk about it. So it's kind of interesting. Very interesting. Really, really interesting. But you see, there was this period of time when people were working with mathematics to understand the divine, because they recognized that mathematics was a universal thing. DN Black says, I'm saying these glands do a lot more than you think for visual experience and inner and outer. I honestly don't know. Like I said, I don't think the brain really exists in the sense that, yeah, I mean, it's a thing we talk about. It's a thing we can look up on the you know, X-ray machine and all that. But I think that's all an illusion in the mind. So from the perspective of that illusion, you might be right. It may be as you say. From the ultimate position, though, they're just illusions in the mind. So you can work with them or not. And I think it's good. I'm not quite fully understanding your question then, though, Maybe, I don't know, maybe you need more space or something to put it out. I could be just me. I'm not quite picking up on it. Yeah, I would maybe, like I said, a lot of the stuff I do, it's not through a tradition. It's from a certain realization perspective, and then I find things that resonate with it. So it may be something I'm just not aware of that you're talking about. It's possible, or I'm just misreading it. But yeah, so there was a period when people were trying to understand the divine through mathematics. And when we're talking about mathematics, we're not talking about numbers. Numbers are just symbols of mathematics. Mathematics transcends the numbers. That's a thing people got to realize. When scientists say the universe is mathematic, they're actually talking about Pythagoras and Plato, and they're talking about that stuff. They may not realize they're saying that, because some of them really do think that we're talking about numbers for some reason. I don't know why they think that. When someone says like, oh, the world is all mathematical, they don't literally mean that there's a bunch of numbers flying around in empty space and that's what the universe is. They mean the logos. That's what they're talking about. They mean there's a logos, there's a logic there, and logic is an intuitive quality. It's a spontaneous intuitive quality. It is not a set of numbers. Numbers are notation for that abstraction, that noumenal abstraction of reality. Now, memory serves, Pythagoreans didn't like the number of infinity. They thought infinity was an evil thing. The divine could not be infinite because it was an irrational number, and the divine must be rational. I think that's an attachment on their part. And I think that led to some misunderstanding, and that we're still stuck with it. I think infinity is a grand number. I think it's a great value. I think that is the better number. But I would also argue that infinity is not infinity because there's nothing to compare it against, right? If the divine is infinite, then there's nothing finite to compare it to. So how do we know it's infinite? It could be one or infinity, and it would be the same number, as far as we know. It's like what I said in a stream a while back. I said, imagine a cube that is made of solid gold of infinite size. Well, that is a completely irrational concept. Because if the cube is of infinite size, it cannot have edges, it cannot have sides or faces. Because it's so infinite in size, there's no outside. It's everything. Everything is that gold cube, so it can't be a cube. It's just infinite gold. Okay, all right, we're good. So it's infinite gold. Let's take the word cube out. It's infinite gold. It's infinite pure gold. Okay, if it's pure gold, then it can't be gold because there's nothing that isn't gold to compare it to. So there's no silver, there's no water, there's no fire, it's just gold. And if it's all gold, it can't be gold anymore. It would be nonsensical to call it gold because that's all there is gold. So there's nothing opposite to it. There's nothing to compare it against. So it's just infinite. Well, guess what? You do the same thing with the word infinite. If it's all infinite, whatever it is, there's nothing finite to compare it to. So therefore, even infinity is negated. And you are left with what actual reality is. So if I say to you, reality is an infinite cube of gold, I just told you better than someone saying reality is a bunch of quantum fields. They have no fucking clue. By saying reality is an infinite cube of gold, I've told you more than most other people could. Interestingly, and I think personally. Wyatt's speaking like a true Anunnaki, a true Anunnaki prince over there. And Astarte said an important thing. Math is an elegant conceptual language. It's all language. What I'm trying to say is that this thing that you call reality is actually a language. It's not really what it is. This is a symbolic metaphor for what is real. This bottle is not this bottle. It is a symbolic metaphor of whatever's making this bottle appear in my consciousness. It does not exist as a bottle. Bottle is a language. Even the things that I see are a language. They're all linguistic archetypes, linguistic forms, linguistic concepts. All of this is like all of the simulacrum is a form of language. Period. Numinal reality transcends all language. My only issue, and you mentioned the logos, my only issue with the subject of logos is that people think the logos is patterned. What I'm suggesting is that pattern is just a subset of infinity. It looks patterned in some spaces, and in other places it doesn't. In some places, the universe is rational, but if you go far enough, it won't be. So, yeah. So Laura S., welcome. Hello, hello. I hope they're interesting topics. Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm starting to lose my voice because I broke my promise where I said I wouldn't yell, and I've been yelling this whole time. So I'm probably going to be going in a minute. I apologize for the latecomers. I'm probably going to be calling it a night in a few minutes. But I appreciate everybody's comments and questions. You know, I've definitely burned out on content creation a little bit. I actually have a video ready to go. I just got to release it. Actually, I've got to edit it and release it, but I got it ready to go. It's actually a really good one. I do have to release it. It was talking about consciousness and a rock. And I think people would enjoy that if I get it going. I got to get that one out. But, you know, I sort of wanted to set the record straight tonight a little bit because I came on the scene publicly in 2018. Dude, that's an eternity ago. That's 4 fucking years ago. You think that my views have stayed the same? No, neither should yours. But the quintessential realization behind it, if it's true, it won't, the realization will still be the same. Just the way you talk about it will be different. How you apply it will be different. How you integrate it will be different. So the realization hasn't changed for me. It's the way I practice it, integrate it, and talk about it has changed. DH is an illusion, correct. I think it's a big, fat, beautiful illusion, but you know. Well, thank you, Solora. I think I've noticed that there's been an uptick in both super chats and people coming to the streams again. For a little while there, it was kind of dying out. And I think some of that has been I just stopped talking about the ugly political words. And so they're not shortcutting me and short-circuiting me as much. So I'm really happy to see that people are coming again. So it's really good to see, especially seeing new faces is really good. So I've really got to, you know, at some point I've got to get through this new metamorphosis and start publishing again, get my books out again, get a new book out, get my website back up and do all that stuff back up. And, you know, continue my outreach maybe in an organized way. What I'm thinking of doing, full disclosure, is I've said this before, I want to say it again. I am intending on at some point in the future, starting like what you could call like an open temple, like a self-initiatory temple via my website that will have stuff and be a sort of a hub where people can get like a community going. So I want to see if I can get that done. And it will be centered around the stuff I talk about. It'll be centered around manifestationism and certain spirits and, you know, personifications of the divine will be at the top of the list. Some favorites like Lucifer, for example, stuff like that. So I'm sort of trying to put myself into a position where I can do that again, because when I look at my old work, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just I've moved on so far from what I used to say. So it's, you know. Wyatt, anybody can view the site, but as usual, joining the community stuff would be 18 or up. Only because of predators and weird stuff, and I don't want liabilities. It probably shouldn't be an issue, but this kind of stuff that would be talked about, yeah. But you can check out the website stuff. It would just be, the community part would be adults only. You could start your own thing based on it, though. Like, the beauty of it is you could start your own study group for it, like, for people your age or whatever. You can put whoever you want to bring in, adults, whatever, don't matter. The whole point of it would be like, I'm not trying to create an order per se or a cult per se, rather a sort of like the Temple of Ascending Flame does. There would be like me, probably just me, potentially some other people that would serve as like the creators of stuff for the temple. Much of it would be self-initiatory oriented, so you don't need somebody to guide you. But like all things, some sort of a teacher is kind of important along the way somewhere. So there would probably be some offer of that in there, but it wouldn't be, the intention would be for you to do all this yourself. The intention would be to like, here's the book, here's the work, here's the tips, here's the advice, here's a thing you can chat with occasionally if you got questions, Patreon or whatever, if you want like more professional answers. And it wouldn't just be for a business, but it would be one of those things where it's like, okay, I can only answer so many questions at a time, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm still feeling that part out. I want to make a resource online is what I'm getting at. I want to make a resource online, give it the temple vibe, make it a thing that you can engage with that's both communal and self-initiatory, and leave it like that. And let it grow. And if it doesn't grow, it doesn't grow. Oh, Tropa, good night. Good seeing you. She's calling it a night. Good night. I think I'm going to go too. My voice is shot. Wyatt's saying it'd be cool to get a cult going around me. I've done that though. It's not what it's cracked up to be. At least not if you're like me, it's not. And if you can't, it'll actually do a lot of damage to you energetically, believe it or not. I actually had somebody accuse me of having a cult going now. If it was a witch hunter finder or something, I don't know. He did like this long ass video dissing me and EA quitting. And I'm like, dude, why don't you just call me and talk to me and we could work this out instead of like making a diss video, like whatever. But it's like, he's doing what all cult leaders do. They say they're not leading a cult, and it's okay. Catch me in some kind of double negative, double bind. Okay, buddy, whatever. No, I legitimately don't. I've actually had other people come to me. There's some people in the community who are like, let's start a cult. You totally could. You're very charismatic. We could totally do this. You don't even have to be the bad kind. This could be totally ethical, but and it's like, no, nope, I've done it. It's not, I don't mind being a community leader. I don't mind that. I don't mind being a spirit, but I'm not going to be a cult leader. I am not doing it. I am not bringing people in like in some kind of hierarchy. It's like, enough. Just enough. I've been down that road. It's not good. It's not fun. It's fun at first to be like, yes, bring me my slippers. After a while, it's like, no, it's gross. It's weird. You're surrounded. Here's this thing about cults. Okay. When you work in a cult, when you have a cult, it may start good, but eventually you're surrounded by weakness because only the weakest people gravitate towards cults like that. Just letting you know. So if your goal is to really be powerful, surround yourself with powerful, independent people who would refuse to ever join your cult. That's how you get powerful. You don't get powerful by having a legion of morons doing what you tell them because they're useless. Always useless. No, thank you. That's, if you want to be like, you know, amoral or immoral about it, think of it that way. It ain't good. DM Blake says he has his own comment. So do I. It's called my bedroom. And yeah. All right, guys. My throat's getting a little sore. I am going to be saying goodnight to you all. I should be live next week again. And again, next week on Friday, I will be at Iron Garden again for those of you who went or are going again or want to go again, or those of you who are Iron Garden people who found me because of my visiting there. I will be there again next week. I'm looking forward to it. My wife and I both will be going, and I do believe Siege will be going too. So if you want to come hang out with us, if you're in the area of Newark, New Jersey, I will be there on the 28th. If you want to meet me in person, that's where you can do it. Nice public place to do it. Iron Garden at QXT's in Newark. And we're going to be doing this kind of regularly for a while. My wife and I had a good time, so we're going to make a trip, you know, a couple times a year out there. So, and then we're going to do another big event next year because that was a lot of fun this time. So whoever can make it out, you know, don't fly out unless you can afford that kind of stuff. But if you live in the area and you want to visit and check it out, I would appreciate it. So, all right, guys, have a great night. Keep practicing your practices. Just keep on minding those shadows, guys. All right. Until next time.